We've got the one and only Michelle Montaigne of WFAA fame, and we've also got Coach Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, so listen, let's just dive into this thing because I want to hear from the panel, everyone, how much improvement you thought that Cowboys defense was going to show and how surprised you were with the improvement they actually showed. Coach, you get to go first since you're this highfalutin analyst.
Yeah, highfalutin, and I was shocked at what they showed. I mean, at least they brought some pressure. At least they played some man coverage. Sometimes you got to get comfortably uncomfortable and get out of your zone, and then things kind of look better. Don't tell me about who they were playing. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the fact that they at least got out there and said, hey, you know what? We're going to give our guys a little confidence after we challenge them.
I am going to talk to you about who they played, but I'm going to wait to do that and hear from Michelle first.
It was really good that 4 different guys had sacks. I thought it was good that they forced some turnovers. I thought Deron Bland looked really good, not just on that pick 6, but several different times in pass coverage. So to Coach's point, I mean, if you consider the fact that Deebo Samuel was not playing and Terry McLaurin was not playing, of course, that weakens the Commanders' offense that they were going against. But it doesn't really matter because this Cowboys defense played the Carolina Panthers last week and looked like they were a JV defense playing against at least a college one or a college offense. So take the opponent out of it. I thought the improvements were just, it was promising. Like it wasn't just so painful to watch.
Jonah?
We spoke about this in our postgame show, and I'll come back to it right now. If the Cowboys defense can just be average, top 2/3 in the NFL, just be okay, this Cowboys team's making the playoffs. I mean, they are that good offensively, and we're having the debate at this point where this might be the best Cowboys offense we've seen in 11 years. They're that good, and that can take you pretty far in the NFL, especially today's NFL. So I was encouraged, especially after last week's catastrophe in Carolina.
So what you're saying, Jonah, is you would take today the 21st ranked defense in the NFL at the end of the year? Is that what you're saying? Because I think it's a pretty good bet.
Yeah, why not? I mean, at that point, offensively, you probably have enough to get there. And if your defense can just be okay, you can win most games 46-30.
Yeah, that number keeps going up.
You think I'm joking. I'm actually
35
serious.
to 40, and it's at 46 now. It just keeps going up. I do think, seriously, Coach, you do have to at least mention, who they played, because I would submit to you that if Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel and their third best receiver, if they were all there, they wouldn't have played as much man. They couldn't have played as much man. And I don't know how good they would have been against the run, if those receivers were there.
And Joe, maybe not, but I'll tell you this, all you got to do is get 2 or 3 critical stops in the football game. Put out there whoever you want to put out there. I still think they make 2 or 3 critical stops, and scoring almost a half 100 will get you a win.
By the way, no disrespect to Noah Brown. He's their third best receiver, former Cowboy Noah Brown. I think it's a good point, Coach, and I do think you made a great point actually on Sports Special, because it didn't matter who they were playing against because some of the technique was sound, and I think that's the biggest improvement. And I'll put this out to all you guys. I mean, I think, and I said this last week, at some point a lot of people needed to check their egos at the door, and those are coaches included, to try and acquiesce and to try and just come up with what would be best for the group. And I think we saw some of that. And I'm just curious, and I'll start with you, Michelle, how much do you think Shotty's way of doing business helped foster what we saw in this game?
Not a huge impact. I mean, I think he said it post-game today, like, I'm always the same guy. You guys know what to expect from me day in and day out. We know that he leaned in a little bit more on the defensive side of things this week. And I also heard, I think it was on the broadcast, them talking about the fact that Dak was trying to get with some of the younger defensive players throughout the week, trying to figure out how he can help the defense even more. So I think Shotty plays a big role, gets a lot of credit for how he's handled everything up until this point, because I mean, there was chatter about Matty Eberflus losing the locker room on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Shoddy, just the way that he loves these players and the way he carries himself, wouldn't allow that type of thing to happen.
No, I think it's a good point. And the other thing I really liked about this game was the physicality that this Cowboys defense played with, because that's what was missing against Carolina. I mean, they got thrown around really on both sides, on both offense and defensive lines, right? Both sides of the ball. But in this game, it was obvious that they had a mandate to stop the ball. Bill McCroskey-Merritt, he averaged 2.5 yards a carry. I mean, they were dominant in terms of stopping the run, and that kind of set the table for everything else. And again, yeah, they could put more people in the box in the run game because they weren't as afraid of having receivers run over their head or run behind him. But still, I mean, it was just the physical presence that they showed. And I'm hoping that ignites them to try and do that kind of thing, you know, in these games that are coming up, Jonah.
Yeah, for me, it's just kind of cautious optimism. And we've seen with this Cowboys team, really, it feels like going back to the Jason Garrett era, is they're so good one week and then they just flop. Like last week was a flop. Like, where did that come from? And then they bounce back. You know, they're always this team that seems to need a chip on their shoulder or backs against the wall to motivate themselves and play well. And we saw that today. And they kind of, at least they backed up the talk that we heard in the locker room over the course of the week. Now the task is, can you stack those performances week after week and go on a run, as opposed to this seesaw up and down type of season that for the most part it's been so far?
We have one of our incredible directors who's in the studio. He might be shaking his head right now like, no, we've seen this movie before. That's not going to happen. And I will say this, to that point, we thought maybe because of Shoddy's presence and with the way they played against the Jets, which could have been a trap game, we thought maybe they had gotten over it. And, of course, we quickly learned a couple things. No, they hadn't gotten over that, you know, getting off the roller coaster ride. And B, the Jets are just awful. So they were going to beat them regardless. So that didn't prove anything, absolutely nothing. So, Coach, when it comes to Eberflus, how do you think he handles this thing moving forward? Does he continue to acquiesce and play more man, which we know is not his bag? Or do you think he tries to, you know, find ways to get back to things he likes to do?
I mean, he needed this for his confidence. His players needed it for their confidence. And guess what? I think it helps everybody on that side of the football to have a little confidence. Do I think they're going to play as much man versus somebody that can really press you vertically? Probably not. But the fact that he did that at least gives their offense now things to work on. 9-man boxes, ability to play some man. Guess what? Sean Payton will be up in the morning taking a look at it going, wow, he's playing a bunch of man defense.
Yeah, wasn't expecting that. And we'll see what Sean has in store in those Denver Broncos next week. All right, we got to call a timeout. What we've got in store is plenty talk about a potent Cowboys offense that was just breaking records left and right. We'll talk about that coming up next on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Man, what a crazy game that Giants and Broncos game was. Jackson Dart with just a killer interception late in that thing.
The Giants took the lead.
I know.
I thought this game was over.
And
what
then
are we doing?
We look up again and we're like, how did that happen?
What are we doing?
It was crazy. All right, we're going to get back to the Cowboys because, listen, you guys, there is so much offense to talk about. There's so many marks that have been created and so many things that are happening with this team. It's ridiculous. And we'll start with this. 40 points in each of their first 3 home games. That hadn't happened around here since 1973. Pretty ridiculous. Dak Prescott now 21-2 against NFC East teams at home. Dak against the East in the friendly confines, absolutely ridiculous. And here's the question for the panel. Is this the best football that Rain Dakota Prescott has ever played? Michelle, you go first.
I think so. And I think it's not necessarily just because of the impressive throws. I think it's so much more about the confidence that he's playing with, honestly, the joy that he's playing with. He has said it so many times, I've lost count this season, that he basically feels like there isn't a single look that a defense can give him that he doesn't recognize at this point. And I think just you're seeing the changes at the line of scrimmage. You're seeing him dissect and really take what the defense is giving him. And he has so many weapons around him that he's just like, all right, you give me this, I'll take that. And I think he's done such a good job decision making. It's so much more about what he's doing up here in his play right now and what he's been doing physically. I mean, the run game when it's needed has been obviously a game changer for the Cowboys. He is a threat in that way, in ways that I don't think he was last year. Obviously not as much so as it was in the beginning of his career. But I think if I were to give you a yes or a no, Joe, I think it has to be a yes. And it's because of not only what he's executing physically, but all that's going into it upstairs as well.
Jonah?
I get so frustrated with some fans that when you praise Dak Prescott for playing the best football of his entire life, which is what he's doing, he is in master command. All those years of playing in the NFL now as a starting quarterback, you are seeing it all come out with his ability to read defenses. All of that experience is showing up now this season, and he's playing at the highest caliber, I believe, in the NFL this year so far through week 6. And I get so frustrated with some fans that just immediately go to the comments section and say, playoffs, playoff record, what have you done in the playoffs? As if some of the issues in the playoffs were all directly correlated to Dak Prescott. As if anything that happens in the past affects right now. My opinion of Dak Prescott is that he deserves more credit for what he's doing, and he is still somehow not an MVP frontrunner according to Vegas. I think that may change pretty soon because the numbers support that we are seeing an MVP caliber season right now.
Coach?
I mean, I don't think there's any question he's playing the best football he's ever played. Now, I'm going to tell you this. He's got a head coach that he looks in step with. I can guarantee you, and I don't know this for a fact, they go through the call sheet maybe on Friday. Hey, what do you like, Dak? What don't you like? You don't like this? You don't like how it looked during the week? Get rid of this. He is in sync with the head football coach. I've been as critical as Dak as anybody, but there is no question he's playing as good as any quarterback in the NFL, and he's put this football team on his back to a 3-3-1 record. 500, Joe.
Yeah, listen, I think when you talk about Dak now, it's command, it's confidence, it's composure, it's even class. Right? Because he looks like that kind of classy quarterback who's been through it all, who understands it all. And he doesn't know it all, but he knows most of it, right? He knows enough of it to be absolutely lethal. And we've seen it time and time again. And the thing I really like now is the time that Shoddy is giving Dak to spend at the line of scrimmage to dissect and then absolutely attack. I like the aggressiveness that Shoddy calls games with. I think they got away from that a little bit last week. They rectified it this week. Hello, CeeDee Lamb for the 74-yard bomb. And I just think that, Coach, it's a great point. I think he's in lockstep with Schottenheimer. And I don't know if that was always the case, with the way that McCarthy would call games. I just don't know. What I do know now is Shoddy has unlocked the best that is Dak Prescott, and he's got more help now than he ever has had. I think the tandem of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens is quickly becoming the best tandem in the history of this Cowboys football team in terms of receivers. Does anyone dispute?
No,
I'm curious.
Joe, I thought that could be a possibility going back to August. I mean, just on sheer talent. We did have to say that we have to see it play out in the season. I mean, it's been 7 games now, and it's been pretty impressive. We got to give a lot of credit to the running game. This was a part of the Cowboys team that we kind of left for dead after last year. We were at so many questions. Who's going to be their running back? What is this going to look like? Because they've been trying to figure it out since Zeke's prime, really. And finally, this is probably the best the Cowboys' rushing attack has been since then. And you pair that with Dak's experience and his weapons now on the outside. Jake Ferguson ascending. I mean, this is such a complete offense and a team that can win in multiple ways, whether you're leading or behind. And I think that's what makes them so dangerous.
The history, Joe. So Harper and Irvin, you okay, buddy? You all right?
So are you telling me you think that Alvin Harper is more talented than George Pickens?
I didn't say that. You said the history.
I'm just asking. Do you think
I'm
he's
just
more
asking.
talented?
I'm talking about these rings. That's what I'm talking about.
I know. The ring's the thing. I get you. I understand. But we're talking tandems. And that was like a 1 and 1A deal. I mean, I do believe, believe it or not, what CeeDee Lamb said, we got 2 1s, he wasn't wrong. They've got 2 1s, and those 2 1s are absolutely lethal.